What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Wing and Tail Boys podcast, your Northeast hunting and fishing destination. I'm Chris,
And I'm Angelo.
and we're your hosts. Join us as we navigate the woods and waters of the Northeast, sharing our passion for the outdoors.
Whether it's land management, outdoor recreation, hunting, or fishing, we're going to cover it all. With 40 plus years of experience in the Northeast, we'll provide insights, tips, and stories to help you make the most of your adventures and help you experience the wild.
So, tune in, grab your gear, and let's hit the woods together. And always remember, success is just a commitment away. How y'all doing today, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Wing and Tail Boys. I'm Chris.
I'm Angelo.
And today we have a really exciting episode, at least for us. This episode's a little closer to home for us, a little bit more personal. We have Angelo's brother, my cousin Daniel, here with us today to share his story of his very first ever deer that he shot 2 days ago, was it, or 3 days ago?
Sunday.
2 days ago, yeah, man. So it was a great weekend, good family weekend up at the family cabin. But before we get into all that, Dan, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself, talk a little bit about your introduction into hunting and your choice to start deer hunting.
No problem. So, what's going on? I'm Dan, obviously Angelo's brother. As you guys already know, we do come from a hunting family. So I was kind of grown up and raised around hunting and all that kind of stuff. But predominantly, I was more of a upland bird hunting person. I enjoyed pheasant hunting a lot more than deer hunting, preferably because I didn't enjoy deer meat growing up. I was a very picky eater, so I never wanted to kill anything or go hunting for anything that I didn't eat. So up until recently, where I've been a little bit more adventurous with my taste buds and stuff, and trying different meats and stuff like that, I've found a little bit of an interest in rifle hunting specifically. And so while I had to go back and redo my hunter education and stuff like that, I only had shotgun done. I said, you know what, let me do everything. Let me finish up, get the bow license, get the rifle license, and then maybe, going forward, I could dabble in a little bit of bow hunting, see how I like it, rifle hunting, see how I like it. And it was, perfect timing because the rifle season for New York came up shortly after.
Awesome.
And that's really it.
Cool. And for our listeners who aren't aware, every state is a little bit different. In Pennsylvania, you go out, you take your hunter class, and you pretty much are cleared for whatever firearm you want to use: bow, rifle, shotgun, muzzleloader, whatever. In New Jersey, if you want to hunt with a bow, you have to go and take the bow hunter education course. If you want to hunt with a muzzleloader or a 22 for small game, you need to go and take the rifle portion of the hunter education course. And then the same thing with shotgun if you want to go out 6-day shotgun or pheasant hunting, as opposed to, like I said, other states that allow you to just do it once and it covers everything. So if that process sounds a little foreign to some of you listeners, that's why. Before we get into the weekend, Ange, how's your past week gone for you? Last week we talked. You had shared a story of the last recent doe you had shot, I believe.
Yeah, so I had the doe, and then I think I may or may not have spoken in the last episode about an injury that I had that was probably going to sideline me until the New York deer season started. I think what ended up happening was I think I bit off more than I can chew in the time that I was supposed to be resting for the New York season. I went in and I sighted in the rifle that I just recently purchased. We just recently put a YouTube video together on our channel, the Wing and Tail Outdoors channel. Go check that out. I had to end up taking like 12 shots out of that. So I purchased this rifle online. I had it inspected by a certified dealer. They okayed the purchase. They said everything's good with it. The only thing is that it had a broken front post, which is easy replaceable, so I didn't really mind too much. So I went ahead with that purchase. The only thing is it didn't come with a scope. It wasn't sighted in. The only thing I had at my disposal that was I'm not saying worth putting on. The only thing that actually fit, that was even able to be put on, was my 1-4 LPVO from my 5.56 platform. So that was what I ended up having to put on there quickly, but it had to be completely sighted in. So I ended up having to take like 12 shots out of the 30.06. And of course I'm righty, so I had to, shoulder it on my right shoulder, which is a shoulder that I injured. So, right after I had gotten that injury, I took 12 shots from the 30-06 in my shoulder. I think it was a day or two after. Daniel was with me, actually. We did a job. I do construction, and we did a job where I had to build a set of deck stairs that were like 12 feet high. We were working above our head. I had to use a lot of. Are you getting a little bit of interference in my talk?
No,
No, okay.
you're okay. Honestly, I forgot about that deck job you went and did.
Yeah, so I didn't want to lose out on that, and because he was able to come help me, I kept on doing it. But obviously with all that lumber lifting it up over your head, that kind of put me through the ringer. And then we went up to upstate New York, where I had told you guys that I intended on doing a little bit of spot and stalking. I'd never really been in those areas hunting. None of us really have, so I didn't really know what to expect. I wanted to get boots on the ground, do some scouting, and then maybe find a great spot to sit for the afternoon, or just maybe we could make something happen during the day. And that really really ended up catching up with me, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But it's been a rough week for me since the last episode. It's been a rough week. How about you? What's
Okay.
going on?
For me, it's kind of like a bittersweet moment for me. We've talked a lot on this podcast about how the last couple years for me have been a little bit rough. Last year, I hit a deer, first deer I ever hit and didn't recover. This year, I got a shot at a doe, second deer I ever hit and didn't recover. So I had 2 hits back to back that I didn't get a recovery. So this weekend, opening weekend of rifle, you guys went to public land. We stayed on the family property. And I went out Saturday, sat all day. The only thing I saw was a non-legal small little buck. I don't know if it was like a really small 6-pointer or just a regular old little fork-horn four. Not something I would shoot on the family property. And Sunday, I was feeling a bit defeated. I woke up with you guys. I got out of bed. I said, you know what, I'm not going out for the morning. So I went back to sleep, caught up on some rest, and then instead of actually going to sit for the day, I decided to go out with your dad and do some scouting. We wanted to pick some spots out for the Thanksgiving for our Thanksgiving family hunt. So we went out, we were doing a little bit of scouting, and I happened to bring the rifle with me. And as we were doing our scouting, came across a couple deer, and I punched the tag on a doe. With us at the property, I know in the past I've said that I didn't want to shoot doe right now, but our forester said that based on the browse sign, the browse line in our forest, that we have too high of a population, and the DEC wants us to start handling the deer population a bit in preparation for the harvest that we're hoping to have next week. So saw a group of deer, saw a doe. We had the DEC tag for the doe, so I took the doe. I wouldn't consider it a deer that I hunted. It's just a deer that I saw and took to fill the freezer. So on one hand, I got that monkey off my back. I got another deer down, first one in 3 years for me now. But on the other hand, I didn't exactly get it the way that I would have liked. So there is it is what it is. But first rifle kill was great. Deer only went like 15 yards after the shot, and she dropped, piled up. It was awesome. More importantly, I'm actually starting to gear up, and I'm starting to try to build my schedule for the upcoming summer. We've talked a little bit about in the past how I have like a forest management business on the side where I do pesticide work in the forest. I help post or paint the borders of people's properties. And I also do like hack and squirt TSI type of work. Starting to fill up that schedule here. I got a couple things lined up for the 2025 spring and summer. If anyone here is listening and you're in New York State, Eastern New York State, and you're interested in any of these services, feel free to send me an email. That's wingandtail.chris@gmail.com. I'd be happy to work with you and schedule something coming up here. With that being said, man, Dan, tell us a little bit about how you prepped for this hunt. We don't want to give the goods away just yet. We're going to ease into it here. But talk to us a little bit about how, you said you never really wanted to deer hunt up until this year. It's something you've been toying around with. You finally made the decision to do it. As a first-time hunter, not really, I don't want to say you don't really know what to do, but being a first-time hunter, inexperienced, what was your preparation like getting ready to start deer hunting?
Yeah, I mean, I know the woods. I know what's some signs look like rubs or anything like that. I know that just from being around a hunting family. But as far as really getting in there, scouting out a good spot to sit or be near or any type of thing that goes into like that I'm very, unknowledged on that. So obviously, with my brother and you and everybody around us, it's a lot of help. I get a lot of information from that, and you know, um, really, it wasn't it was I can't take a lot of the credit. Obviously, I did a lot of the hunting, basically all the hunting with my brother. So he was kind of there to help me and show me the ropes and stuff like that. But it was definitely a fun process, and obviously going forward, it'll be a lot, more interesting to learn a lot more of those things, and see where it takes me. See if this is something that I would, really fall into, and like to do it on a more consecutive basis.
Yeah, I mean, and the cool thing is, like, Angela, I don't know about you. I'm not too familiar with the story of your first deer, but I know my first deer, my brother's first deer. I'm pretty sure my brother and I both had your dad next to us when we shot our first deer, you know? So, in my opinion, it's really great to have somebody to go into it with, not just to kind of show you the ropes and kind of, walk you through what to do here, in the woods, but it's also nice when that moment of truth comes down and the deer steps out and it's time to take that shot. It's really nice to have somebody over your shoulder saying everything's all right. Deer doesn't know you're there. Just take your time, breathe. But you know what I mean? So like it
Trust me,
kind
if I wasn't ready for that shot, Ange was ready for that shot.
of
That deer wasn't going anywhere.
He was not getting away from us.
All right, so Ange, same question to you. Flip side of that, Dan kind of shared with us what it was like for him being an inexperienced hunter to kind of start building up to this. What was it like for you to finally hear that your brother, after all these years, is finally excited to come out, do some hunting with you? What did the preparation look like for you as you were starting to work with him to get him ready for this weekend?
I mean, honestly, it was for me. It was more pressure because just wanted him to be successful, right? And we're going to another state that I'm unfamiliar with. We're going to be hunting terrain that is very difficult to be hunting, regardless if you're an experienced hunter or not. Just being able to access some of these spots that hold deer are very challenging to get to. They can be miles up very rugged terrain, even manicured trails, which we did a lot of walking on. We walked a lot of manicured trails and still was very rugged terrain to traverse. But one of the things, though, is again, like I said, the added pressure of wanting him to go on there because I had never guided anyone, and that's basically what I ended up doing was taking him on a guided hunt. And again, I didn't know where we were even going to be hunting, so it was a lot of e-scouting for me, trying to make sure that I could put anything that I had learned in the past or anything that I have tried to project onto our viewers or listeners in the past. I kind of took out all the information, all the tricks out of the bag, and I had a slew of different places marked on Onyx and on a couple different other applications that I used to scout and to prepare for the hunting seasons, which ended up producing some very limited success. I'll say that New York, if anyone's ever been there during any hunting season, I'm sure the bow season's probably even more difficult. It's challenging terrain to hunt, and we've done some research about it just in preparation for the hunt. The deer per square mile and the deer density is not great in New York, and the bucks per tag sold is not that great either. So you're heading into a pretty challenging hunt if you're going to hunt New York and you only have a buck tag, which is what a lot of out-of-state hunters are left with. We did have a bear tag on us, and we would have definitely harvested a bear if we saw one. We did not. I didn't really have any preparation on scouting for bear. We did learn a lot in our episode that we did with Brian Melvin, who shot recently the world record black bear that was harvested in New Jersey. If you haven't had a chance, please go back and listen to that episode as well. That was a really great episode with a lot of information about bear hunting. So I kind of, fell back on that. But I think the main thing was Daniel had expressed to me that, I had recently, earlier this year, shot a buck, and I'm going to be doing a little Euro mount with that. We actually have a video coming out soon. We have a no burn notice in just about the entire Northeast, so I can't start a fire in my backyard. Otherwise, I probably would have done it already. But as soon as I get that lifted and I'm able to go out in my backyard and kind of get a fire going, we can get that skull boiled up and we can start that process. We'll get that video out to you guys. But my dad also shot a 9-pointer, or what would have been a 9-pointer. He had a point broken off. On Halloween. We also have a video for that, and I'm sorry that this video kind of sounds like a plug-a-thon, but it just kind of worked out that way. But go check that video out as well on our YouTube channel, Wing and Tail Outdoors. But Dan probably would have been more excited to probably bear hunt if none of that other stuff had happened. He had expressed some interest in wanting to hunt bears in the past, whether it was New Jersey, New York, or wherever else. And if we were given that opportunity, we would have taken it. But because we had the other stuff, we thought it would be really cool to be able to have that father and sons trifecta, if you will, of bucks in a year. And I really wanted to put him on one, and it added a little bit of pressure. So, I mean, I guess leading up, other than just having the thought process of what I normally do, keeping it simple, getting to the basics when you go out there, not trying to do anything too crazy, get too cute, just do the use your woodsmanship, find the sign, hunt the deer, and that was really kind of what I was falling back on in preparation of this week.
All right. Now, you touched on something there about only having a buck tag if you're an out-of-state resident. The nice thing is what New York State does, they work on a point system. So every year you can put in to the lottery to draw for a doe. And there's a chance you can get it year one, and if you don't, you get a point. And then year two, if you don't get it, you get another point. Once you rack up, I believe it's 3 points. If you don't get it that third year and you have 3 points going into that fourth year, you can then get a doe tag, which you can use for the regular season, which is the rifle season. If you come for bow, I believe you get a either sex tag for the bow. And then if you get your muzzle loader, you end up with another doe tag. To be honest with you, the regulations and the bag limits are a little confusing to understand. But that's the general consensus. Now, Dan, you had said that it's really great in the family because you have your brother, your dad, myself, my brother, uncle, my dad, whatever, and you have a lot of people in the family to share information with you. Do you find it more difficult, or how do I want to phrase the question? Do you find it difficult to sift through the information when you're getting 5 different perspectives from 5 different people? Because I know I hunt differently than Angelo, and we hunt differently than your dad, and we all hunt differently than my brother and my dad. So like, how do you sift through that all that stuff?
I mean, to answer it the best and honest way is it's just like anything else in life. You could get information from anybody and you're still going to do what you want. So
Yeah.
basically, I mean, no hunter's going to be the same hunter.
Mm-hmm.
No person's going to be the same person. So I get information from all you guys, but then when I actually go out there, I'm going to take that knowledge and develop it into my own form of hunting. So it's the same type of thing. You kind of try different stuff, and whatever suits me in that specific topic is what I'll keep, and then move on to the next thing and stuff like that. And like I said, kind of develop my own form and my own style of all that information that I've gathered.
Okay, no, and I love that. I mean, that's a great answer. I tell my students all the time, you never stop teaching and you never stop learning. And if you're learning, you're teaching, and if you're teaching, you're learning. So to be able to take information from a bunch of different places, and you and I kind of talked about that last year with the no-till process. Hearing all of this information from, Dr. Grant Woods and all these other different people who are running the no-till system, and then taking all of that and saying, okay, these are the end results I'm looking for, but I don't have the tools they do, or the machinery they have, or the help that they have. So what can I do to change the process while still having the same outcome, right? And for you, obviously, it's how do I take what I learned and apply it in the woods my way and still come home with a deer. So I love that.
Yeah, for clarification, the no-till process has to do with land management and food plots building. It's not a hunting style, just in case anyone was wondering, because we were talking about hunting.
Right.
But one
Yeah.
thing I'll say about the New York terrain, I mean, now that I've got my boots on the ground, and if we are going to talk about, I know you hunt mostly your property, which, again, you're using the no-till system, the buffalo system. There's a couple different ways to call a couple people call it different things,
Names for it. Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
when you're hunting that property, a lot of the times you're hunting travel corridors to food and from bedding and water, or you're hunting on the food. And again, when you're hunting the big woods, similar to other areas. A lot of that is going to depend on oak ridges. You're going to have to find feed trees, which we had an episode with Kevin from Mid-Atlantic Outdoorsman. He talked a lot
Yep.
about feed trees when he was doing his scouting for his New York hunt. And you know, I found that to be true on our hunt. So when Daniel and I went hunting this week, the very first day, what we wanted to do is we wanted to kind of just spread our wings out as far as we could, see what was out there, see what deer wanted to be doing. So let me say this. We didn't know what to expect. I've said that a couple times, but again, we were going to an area that we have never hunted before. The first morning, the opening morning, sorry, I'm gotten like a frog in my throat. We were driving to where we were
Ribbit.
going to be hunting, where I had scouted the day before. I got to the hunting camp a day early. I did a little bit of scouting, and I picked out a spot where I wanted my father, my brother, and I to hunt the very opening morning. And we were going to hunt separately, and then we were going to see how things went. As we were driving to the property that we were going to be hunting on, very out of the ordinary for me, there was not one truck in sight. There was not one hunter in sight. There was no game wardens. There was no nothing. It was just pitch black, dirt roads, and we pulled up to the spot. Unfortunately for us, my dad forgot his backpack at the cabin, and we ended up choosing, because my dad didn't know where he was going. By the time he would come back, it would be too light for him to see the bright eyes that I had put for him to get to his stand. So we decided as a family to go back to the cabin and then re-enter the woods as a family. I don't know if it's just a cultural thing in upstate New York or if it's just a hunting style that's really popular there. But when we drove back, it seemed like it turned into the Disney World parking lot. I mean, there was 5 or 6 trucks at every trailhead entrance. Every parking lot was full, and it was just about to break daylight. So it seemed like during the rifle season, what a lot of people tend to do is they'll start walking in the woods once it's legal shooting time. And then as they're walking through the woods, if they see a legal deer, they'll shoot it while they're walking, which is legal to do anywhere. It's a hunting style. It's a spot and stalk. I don't know if that's spot and stalking. I think that's kind of more like gambling. It's more luck than anything.
It's pretty much
if I see
pretty
it
much
and
what I
pump
did.
it, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much what I did. What I did this weekend, and I'm gonna cut you off for a second
Yeah,
because Dan, I want to know what was going through your mind, right? So just for the listeners, this was the second time ever that you were going out deer hunting. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you sat one other time with your dad for 6-day shotgun like 7 years ago or something like that. Okay, so you get to the woods, there's nobody there. You leave, you come back, fucking packed. Walk us through the shift in emotion. Like, what were you thinking when you first got there? There was nobody there, and then what changed when you got there and everybody was there?
I mean, nothing really changed. Like it was more so, like we said, we're from out of state. We're in a place that we don't really know. A lot of it's e-scouting, so we're trusting what we see there, and it's we knew that it was hunting land, but then not seeing any sign, we were like, is this wrong? Like, can we actually hunt here?
I mean, there
We
was not
actually ended
one
up
tree
calling-
stand in the
Yeah.
woods. I don't know if they just don't hunt in tree stands. I believe it may or may not be a regulation in New York that you can't leave tree stands in the woods. Usually you can hang it for the season and then take it out at the end of the season, so it would be in there basically the entire winter. I did not see one tree stand anywhere in the
I
woods.
know, I know a lot of states are doing that with cameras too. Like some of these states that are starting to ban cell cameras, some of the stipulations are you could use a camera, but you have to put, if you put it in the morning, it's got to come out at night. You can't leave cameras overnight. So, and I know some states are like that with, I couldn't state which state it is, but I know some states are like that with their stands too.
I mean, I'll tell you what, I'm becoming less and less of a fan of technology when it comes to hunting. When I first got into hunting, I kind of had a similar experience to Daniel. Just, I wouldn't say sped up. It's about the same time, but I'm just older, so I'm into hunting already, and I've been hunting now for a long time. I started off bird hunting as well. So for me, when I got into hunting, all those technologies made it a lot easier for me to kind of have success early. And for new hunters, I mean, I don't want to say I want to take things away from them. Obviously, being able to be successful is a big part of keeping people in the sport. But there are getting to be points where people are just overusing the cell cams, especially the cell cams now that you're allowed to have like 25 cell cameras all linked to one camera. You can basically surveil a certain area, and it then becomes surveillance. It's not really hunting. A good old-fashioned camera where you set it and forget it, and then you got to go in and get the card to see what's there. I don't know that I'm as opposed to that, but the cell cam specifically, I'm becoming less and less of a fan of. It's, I guess, kind of me calling the kettle black. I don't use them anyway, so it's easy for me to say, I don't care if they take that right away from other people because it's not affecting me. And I'm not usually one to put limitations. I mean, we're in the great country of America. Freedom is an important thing. The only thing is, I do believe that the deer numbers are decreasing and the quality animals are going down, and we want this sport to keep people involved, keep them excited, and we want this resource, these deer, these animals, to be accessible so that not only people could have, and I don't want to call it trophy animals, but mature animals, because a lot of people are using this sport to provide for themselves and maybe not sustain themselves solely on this resource, but they do use it as a means to provide for themselves. And not having quality animals, mature animals that have grown and developed and provide a good amount of meat per harvest, it could turn some people off to the sport.
Yeah. And I'm kind of like shots fired over here because we use the system that has the 25 cameras that
I
go
mean, if
down to
you're on
one home
private
camera.
property, you
Yeah,
can manage
which
your
is
deer herd however you
which,
want,
which
and
is
it
what
makes
I
more sense.
yeah, which is what I was gonna get to, and I'm not taking offense to what you said at all. I'm just being silly, But like for us, we live out of state. We only go up there on the weekends. It's nice to know what deer we have around. Now, I will say in the past, I got glued to those fucking cameras, man. And if the deer weren't on the camera, I didn't want to be in the woods. What I started doing this year for the first time ever is I said, okay, the cameras are telling me that there's deer here. Now get away from the cameras and figure out where they're coming from. Where's the sign? Where do I need to go sit? And that's what led me to what we talked about last week when I had the best sit of my entire life. So this has been the year for me of new stuff. I'm trying a lot of new things out. On the private property, I have cameras. On the state land, I have none. So it's been a very roller coaster type of year for me. Now, Dan, I want to get back to you here. Angelo was talking about the terrain being tough, and we have seen tough terrain. We've hunted terrain in the past. Explain to us from your perspective, through your lens, what did the terrain look like when you got there? I have no idea. I don't know what this terrain looked like. So share with us what it
Of
looked like
slopes.
and what
Up and down ridges, up and down slopes, a lot of rock, especially the trail that we walked in yesterday. I mean, it was just straight rocks. I mean, there was a beaver that probably was a psychopath that you could ask Ange. There was falling down trees everywhere, blocking the trail, had to go around them, everything like that.
I hope
but
it was more than one beaver.
So you guys were by water, I'm assuming then?
Well,
We
it's
didn't
like a
end up
small little
hunting by-
swamp about
yeah.
halfway, but
Down at the base of the
it
mountain,
was-
there was water. Yeah.
it was a very long trail, and I mean, over the course of the last 3 days, I don't even. Ange, how many miles would you say that we hiked up and down, up and down, up and down?
I mean, I'd say roughly 10 to 12. I mean, we
Somewhere in that range.
Over
And-
the over
was
the 2
supposed to
days?
be- it was
over the last 3 days.
3 days. Yeah.
Okay, that's right. I forgot you guys were there an
Yeah.
extra
Hunted
day.
Monday, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it was for me. I mean, I've been athletic my whole life. I played sports growing up over the last couple of years and stuff like that. I've definitely gotten out of shape, and this weekend definitely showed me that.
And,
He's
and
been
to our-
humbled.
Yeah,
to our-
this weekend
in his
showed me that.
defense, to our detriment, which is maybe something that I did that kind of maybe played off of the fact that I had so much pressure to produce. Most of that walking happened in day one, and it shouldn't have.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
I may have overdid it day one in an effort to produce, and then we kind of toned it back because we had to. We were hurt.
I mean, we all get a little gung ho, right? Like, in hindsight, looking back, my first sit of the year on the family property, I sat right on the edge of the food. And in hindsight, it also didn't ruin anything. You know, my dad got a shot at the deer the next day. We've been seeing deer all year long, but we all know that most of the time you don't want to sit the food until late season. You know, so but the fact that we have this channel and we're trying to produce content, and I feel like I had to shoot a deer and a big deer on camera, I pushed the envelope maybe sooner than I should have. You know, so everything like you said, it's a learning opportunity, it's a learning curve, and let's hope I don't make that same mistake moving forward next year. Now I'm trying to maneuver my way through these questions, and I'm trying not to give it away just yet here. But I'm pretty much at a point where I don't really know much more of this story to be able to ask any more questions here. So Ange, do you have any other questions here for Daniel other than tell us the story from the moment you got out of the car until you shot this deer? Do you have any other questions or things that maybe the listeners might want to hear about from a new hunter?
I mean, obviously, we're leading up to the fact that he harvested a deer. He harvested his first
Yeah.
deer, and it was a nice deer. I would just say, why don't you just reflect on that specifically first, and then you can go into telling us the story. Um, what was it like to harvest your first deer? I
I
mean,
mean,
because there's a
it was
lot
a
of
lot of
people who
fun.
get
I
into
mean,
hunting, they don't know what to expect, they don't understand how they would feel after they pull the trigger. Obviously, there are some people who look down on it. There's other people who realize that it's, providing a resource and it's providing for yourself a means to, you know, eat and everything else. So how did you feel afterwards? Where you said it was exhilarating. Um, are you are you still feeling the same way? Are you more excited, less excited about continuing on?
yeah, I mean, I definitely am more interested. Obviously, going out there first time, and like Chris said, I sat one time 7 years ago. I mean, this is the first weekend that I've really kind of went out there and gave it a chance again in all these years. So I know that there's going to be times of success like there was this time, and I'm very fortunate to have harvested this deer. But I know that it's not always going to be like this going forward. And like we said, we hunted a couple days, and some of those, during some of those periods of time, you're sitting there hours and hours. And I mean, we didn't even see a squirrel some of those days. Like it could get a little intimidating.
Actually, I
Like,
don't remember
is
seeing a
this
single squirrel the entire trip. Now that you
that's what I'm
mentioned that,
saying. It's that it's
the
very,
woods were
very
barren,
limited to what we
barren.
saw. It was just staring at trees, and it's at some points it was hard to stay awake. I
Barren,
wanted to take a
barren.
nice peaceful nap, but
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing
it
wrong with a
was
nap, and you've seen, obviously, I'm not going to say I'm like Joe Hunter here, but you saw that even I had no problems taking a moment to rest my
yeah.
eyes. Sometimes you just got to do it.
And it's funny you say that because I was telling you guys, I think Sunday afternoon, that this weekend is the first weekend I didn't climb to hunt in probably 5 years. It's the first time I fell asleep in the woods in 5 years, and it was fantastic, But it's really cool because you hear a lot of times that there's an old saying, like an old adage, that says you're going to go into the woods with a hell of a lot more than you bring out. Did you feel any sense of that, Dan? Did you feel like, you went in, I'm not to say that you're going through anything or you're stressed out about anything, but do you feel like you came out of the woods a little bit more calm, relaxed, peaceful than you went into the woods?
I was actually gonna say that on my own without you asking
That's
me that
funny.
question.
That's great.
I'm only 28 years old, so I'm not like crazy old, or I'm not also very young anymore. But I will say this: I feel like I'm not the generation of this new school generation where everything's technology or iPad or anything like that. Like I've been fortunate to grow up around technology, and I mean, I'm definitely someone who's distracted throughout the day on social media and stuff like that, besides working and everything. But what I will say is being in the woods and having absolutely no cell service and just complete just calmness, and you're just there. Obviously, my brother's there with me, but we obviously you got to be quiet, so you can't sit there and just keep talking or doing stuff. So you really just sit down, take a step back, and not that you're in your thoughts or you're in your head, but it's just calming to just be in like the silence for once. You're not the fast pace. We also live very near to the city. Sometimes I work in the city, so everything's very, very fast paced. And, it was different for me to kind of take a step back and just like enjoy the silence and like the slow pace of it all. So
Right.
it was nice to not have any distractions for those.
What was the difference in the hunting styles that you've had over the first couple of times that you've hunted? Because I know that when Daddy hunted with you the first time, you were just hunting in like a ladder stand. And then we
Yeah.
did a little bit of walking, spotting, stalking. I wouldn't say we did a lot of spotting, um,
More
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 stalking
stalking.
than anything. But then we did kind of also post up a little bit. I mean, obviously you got to kind of let the deer move as well. You can't just constantly pressure them, constantly pressure them. We, I did a little bit as best I could to kind of show you a little bit how to find sign. I know you're familiar with some of the different signs, but how to find them, how to locate them, understand what they're telling you. What was kind of your experience on the different hunting styles you experienced over this weekend and in the past, and what kind of did you kind of like most about a certain style that you feel like is the one thing you'll take most with you?
I mean, I feel like they were both okay. What I will say is obviously, especially with the temperatures dropping and it gets a little colder, I wasn't necessarily cold, but sometimes you're sitting there when the wind's going, you get a little chilly, getting up, moving your feet, getting the blood flowing again. And it was nice to, sit for a couple hours, get up, move maybe a couple hundred yards or so to a different area that you think might be also a good spot to sit a couple hours or so. Like, I enjoyed that. Last time I hunted, I just walked to my spot, got up in a ladder stand, and sat there all day, and didn't didn't come down at all till I was ready to pack up and leave. So, it definitely is two different styles, but I wouldn't say that I prefer one over the other. I just, obviously when you're up, you're moving around, you're more involved. You're actively looking for new sign, fresh or old, or anything like that. So you're definitely more engaged rather than just kind of sitting there panning back and forth and basically waiting for something to come by.
And I'll say from my
Isn't it
own experience
amazing?
too, sorry, just quickly on the
You're
point
good.
that he made. It's a lot easier to sit there all day and see nothing when it's the spot you picked rather than a spot someone else picked for you, and you sit there all day and you see nothing.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that's tough about being a new hunter is sometimes you're relying on your buddies or your family or your friends, and then it's like they put you in a spot, and then I didn't see anything.
Like,
It's just like,
whatever. There's no,
Yeah, you
blood,
suck.
sweat,
Yeah.
and tears that I put in.
this is
Yeah.
all right, but it's really not all that you guys make it out
But it's
to
not
be.
really. It's not
And
really
you didn't
for
get to do the
me.
fun part, which
Yeah.
was, the scouting part. And a lot of times that's kind of, part of it is the scouting. Like you said earlier, just being outdoors, being off the grid, enjoying the time in the woods, getting away from civilization, detoxing your mind a little bit. That kind of leads you to getting in the stand and then, being able to relax in the stand. That's a big thing that you can take away
Yeah.
other than just
I
harvesting.
mean, I definitely would say it would feel probably 1,000 times more rewarding if I went out, found the sign, said, what, this is where I'm going to sit, and then ended up, being successful and harvesting.
Sounds like he just set the next challenge for himself, man.
Well, I'll tell you
Yes.
what, since we're, I know we wanted to make it short, we want to tell his story, and I'll tell you what, that's kind of a perfect segue because there wasn't a lot that I did leading up to the shot that he harvested this deer on. I mean, other than we were doing the scouting, it was kind of our collective decision to leave the woods that morning and start to do a little bit more scouting. Once it kind of came down to the moment and we located this buck, which, it wasn't necessarily me that located it. It was kind of, a team effort in our scouting. It kind of really he kind of led the show. I mean, there was a little bit of, back and forth, like conversing, what should we do? Should we do this? Should we do that? But in that moment, it's not like I had any experience to lend to him to say, this is what you need to do. He kind of took it on. So why don't you start to tell your story? And Chris, go ahead with whatever you have to say
I'm
first, and then, go ahead and tell your story.
I'm really excited to hear this because you guys were pulling up to camp as I was pulling out with my deer. You guys came in, I think it was like 3:30, 4 o'clock, give or
Yeah.
take. And I had shot my deer at 10:30 in the morning. I had just finished quartering it, and I needed to get out because I needed to get this deer on ice. But um, I my one question for you, right before I left, I said, "Are you hooked?" And you said, I don't know, man. And I said, well, were you nervous? And you said, my heart was doing this. So my question for you now is, are you a wing and tail boy or what?
We'll see. I got a lot more. I feel like maybe to prove or just to prove to myself, but
I mean, we're not just deer
it
hunters.
was definitely fun.
You
It
can
No,
was
we're
understand
definitely
bird
fun.
hunting. I know you love that too, so I'm sure
yeah.
he'll be involved.
All right,
Yep.
man. Listen, I'm really excited to hear the story. I feel guilty that I had to pull away before I heard it. So the floor is yours. Take it away from, you left camp. You had your breakfast, you did whatever, you got dressed, you guys got in the car, you turned it on. Tell us a story from that point forward.
Yeah. So this is Sunday morning, second day. Angelo and I we went out. We scouted this new area that was different from what we hunted on Saturday. We figured it was a little bit more out of the way that maybe the other hunters wouldn't really locate that and go to. So we pulled up there. It was early. We were probably there probably hour before legal light. Get in, walk into our spot. We ended up posting up for maybe about an hour and 15 minutes. Angelo ended up breaking off and going. He was going to make a walk and see if he could see anything around the ridge that we had, and maybe see a spot for him to sit for a little bit. So, again, like I said, there's no cell service. So we just kind of came up with a plan. Like, hey, you stay here. I know where you're at. I'll be back in 3 hours, 3.5 hours. See you then. So, I sat there, and like I said, that was part of the little bit of peace that I got to myself, and it was a nice experience. But you know, long story short, on that sit, that was actually the morning. I did have three doe come up on me to about probably 10 yards, and like I said, this is my second time out in years, ever really. So just having those walk up to me, obviously I can't harvest one of those. I was hoping that a buck was maybe on their tail coming in, and just kept looking around. Nothing ended up showing up. They just kept moseying on by. And showed up. We decided, hey, this spot was, good, but let's maybe get back to the truck, maybe drive around, look at other trails, and kind of just do a little bit more boots on the ground scouting. That way, we had more information to go off of. We were ending up gonna hunt Monday as well, and we figured, a lot of the people who came for the weekend will be gone. Maybe the woods will be a little less empty. We could find a better spot to, set us up for our Monday sit. So we were just driving around, looking at other, open public lands, and while we were driving, we came across this, public land that had a field on the edge of it, and which was also part of the public. And in the very, very back, I just saw the body of a deer, and we kind of were like, "Oh, there's one right there." So we kind of pulled off to the side of the road. We're just kind of like looking to see what it was. Again, we're curious because we didn't see any in the woods. So we ended up seeing him pick up his head. We saw that it was a buck. We could see that it looked to have three on one side, which in New York it has to be three or better on one side. So we were like, okay, this is something that we might have to get in, try and cut him off on his way up the mountain. So we pulled over, got our stuff on, got our stuff ready. We got across the open field nice and easy, not trying to spook him or anything like that. And just on the other side of him was a creek bottom. So we ended up just making our way across the field, getting into that creek bottom, and working our way across just to try and get parallel, get a better eye on him, make sure that it is, a legal buck that we could take, and just see what he's doing. And so once we got to that creek bottom, got parallel with him, we're probably about 65, 70 yards away. He bedded down, and he was just sunbathing, sleeping in the sun. So we were like, okay, take it easy. Let's glass him for a little bit, see what he looks like, see what he's doing. And we saw that he was definitely a 6. We couldn't tell if he was an 8 or anything like that. See if he had brow tines. So we were looking, and I actually only had the binoculars that Angelo gave me, which were just kind of like here you go, feel special and have these. So
I mean, they
he
weren't
actually
horrible.
left.
We were
He
able to
left his
see
Are
it.
they
at
are
home.
they the ones you had when we went to the soybeans?
I have two different kinds. I don't know if they were,
Yeah,
but I
he
mean,
left his back at the cabin,
they can be
and
shaky, and that can be the only thing. They're crisp if you
yeah,
can get good
yeah,
foot. If you could like get your
it was
elbows
just
down
very hard
and you
to
can keep
yeah.
it steady, they're clear. But when it's like,
Yeah. Well, the thing too is when I'm looking at my first buck that I could get,
It was
I can't keep it steady. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah, I mean, what
you
was
know,
your emotions when you're like crouched over, running through? And I know a little bit of the story, so I'll lead into some of these questions. But what were you feeling as we're like? I mean, you talked about it to me after, like being crouched over, kind of hurrying through the field and trying to, not slip and fall on the rocks. You don't know what he's going to hear. You don't know if we're going to spook him. Like, what's your emotions as we're stalking up and he's not in our sight anymore. We know where he
yeah,
was, but now we have to make sure that we can get into a position. We have to leave him, let him be alone, and get there. What was that
yeah.
like?
So I mean, it was definitely nerve wracking because, like we said, going from not seeing anything and being a little unsuccessful, to seeing something that we can harvest, and he's right in front of you, and it's like the littlest thing could go wrong, and he's gone. So trying to get through this creek bottom, it's a lot of loose rocks, and obviously there's water right there, so it's like you're trying to be fast, but you're trying to be quiet. One wrong step, you could have six rocks go skating out from under you and either fall or make a ton of noise, and he runs off. But also not being able to see him because of the drop off into the creek, you know he could walk off, he could get spooked by something else and just run off, and now you're looking for him and he's not even there. So and when we got up to it and he laid down, we didn't even see where he went because he was so bedded down in this field. I mean, if he didn't have his head up looking around like he was suspected of something around him, I mean, it was actually pretty hard to see him laying there. So yeah, we get across the creek bottom, we get parallel with him. We're looking at him. I'm kind of picking up the scope, seeing between the binoculars and the scope, trying to get a better eye on him. And he just laid down. So we were trying to calm ourselves, like, okay, he's laying down. We got time. Don't rush anything. And the biggest thing for us was we didn't know what to do. We didn't know what would be the better option, whether we wanted to make a call at him or make some noise so he would stand up, or if we just let it, time play its course and let him get up unbothered, not sensing any bit of danger or anything like that, without a care in the world. So we talked that over for a couple minutes, and we were like, we'll just let time take its course. We'll see what happens. Give it a couple minutes, which I think also helped me in the end because, like I said, my heart's racing. You're pumped up. You're trying. You just want to get it done, but it's like that opens the door for mistakes. So being that we had that time to really take a second, calm our nerves, figure out what the best course of action was pretty great in that moment.
See, now I was going to ask you a question about that because I had the same thing happen with the deer that's up here on the wall. I called him in and I shot that deer, I don't know, 9 years ago now, but it took him literally, it felt like 45 minutes to go 40 yards. And the entire time, at the time I was using a crossbow, I was in college. I didn't have time to really practice as much as I would like. And I was hunting with the crossbow and having the scope and having it on him for so long. By the time he walked in, those nerves had calmed down. So I was going to ask you if you had the same experience, being that you had all of this time. If you had the same experience with that, but it sounds like you did. So
Yeah, it was definitely nice to have that time. I would say that I say it to him and I think about it. I probably still could have made the shot, but I feel like there would have been more chances of something to go wrong.
absolutely, yeah.
So, you know, we let it happen. We let him lay there and kind of see what would go on. And this was around like 12:20, 12:30.
So you have plenty of
And
time left in
yeah,
daylight to
we
work
had
with.
plenty of
Okay.
time. So we weren't rushing in any sense of that, of, it's legal light or anything like that. It was midday, and we were just like, let time play its toll, and just see what happens. So We were just waiting there, and we got on our stomachs a little bit, kind of crawled a little bit, probably 15 yards just to get a little bit closer to really get a good eye on him. We then realized that it was an 8-pointer instead of a 6-pointer, which then again got the heart pumping
There
a little
go your
bit.
nerves again. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, this is a pretty nice buck. So we just continued to wait. I think we
Yeah, I
waited.
mean, we crawled up on him though.
Yeah.
I mean, we
I mean,
came
it
up out of
was-
the creek bed and we didn't know, like he said, we didn't know what we wanted to do. So we decided not to call at him, but we also kind of wanted to, now that we knew he was relaxed, maybe close the distance a little bit. So we actually crawled into the field, which was kind of crazy
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Like we were crawling closer to him when he's laying down, not necessarily looking at
And
us,
yeah,
but he's
quartering
facing
to us. Yeah, quartering to us
So
slightly.
it's like
so we were kind
he
of
could have
in the
seen
corner
us
of his
move
eye.
at any moment and just taken off. So
So-
we had to go really slow.
Was the grass so? All of the fields that I've seen on the sides of the road have been cut at this point, either hayed or they're dead and laying down. What did this field look like?
I
Was
mean,
it
it was probably
tall
like knee high.
grass
It was
or?
probably like knee high. It wasn't high, but like I said, when
And
he's
it wasn't thick.
laying
It wasn't
down
dense.
and tucked
It wasn't
down,
like when we were laying
you
in it,
could-
you couldn't see us.
Yeah.
I mean,
It was just enough to cover
Yeah.
your silhouette.
Just
yeah,
enough.
basically.
Okay. Okay.
And so we waited there in the sun.
Oh, this is getting hot.
We waited there in the sun for probably 2 hours. I was, and like I said before about the wind and the colder weather, we're geared up for cold weather. We're not prepared to be laying in the blazing sun. So we're laying probably 10 yards from each other. I'm in a big jacket, long johns, heavy wool jeans. Like I'm in heavy gear, just getting baked by the sun. I got sweat dripping down my face. I'm looking
Bro,
at him.
I
He's
was
got
getting
sweat dripping down his face.
heat
like-
stroke
Yeah.
protocol
I
at that
said
point.
I said I didn't make any decisions, but I actually did make one decision, and this was it.
Yeah. So
Take
I mean,
your jacket off.
no, we stayed completely still. But after
Crazy.
about 2 hours, we were like, okay, let's
Yeah.
get this ball
I said
rolling.
I said I don't like this. I think it's been too long. I think you could make the shot, but knowing that he's a new shooter on his first buck with nerves, having laid in the sun, my neck was starting to bother me from keeping it up, trying to locate him. I said, there's no way he's going to be comfortable in that position. I think we should back out back to the creek bottom and get him on a steady shot position. And that was the one decision I made in all this, really.
So were you planning the whole time to shoot him prone?
We were
Was
gonna
that,
shoot him
was that
prone.
the game plan?
We were deciding whether to make a call at him to stand him up and then take the shot,
Okay.
or just
Yes,
let
prone.
him get up on his own. That way, he doesn't sense any
But
danger.
what I'm saying is, so it was either call at him or take the shot from your belly, or to back
that's
out
what he was
back.
saying. Yeah, so
Until
we
I
were
said,
laying
let's
because
back
we
out
were
and get
laying
back
on
to
our
the creek.
stomach for 2 hours.
The-
So you're
Okay.
holding your head up, looking at him.
Well,
So
well,
my
that's what I'm
neck was
saying,
like
yeah.
stiff as can
Yeah,
be.
that was
I
the
had
plan.
a pretty
To
steady
crawl up to him and shoot
form.
him prone when he stood
Yeah.
up.
I
That'd
had
been
a,
so epic, though.
it was something else. So
Like a Chris Kyle shit.
what we tried to do at first, so Ange, I stayed laying prone. Ange backed out to the creek again, and he tried to make one call. He didn't care. He didn't even look. He didn't lift his head. Nothing.
I did one
then
snort
Angelo
wheeze and he
was
turned his
like-
head once. That was it.
Yeah.
Other than that, he could care less what I
Well,
was
that
doing.
was once I backed out as well. Then you tried it again, and that's when he kind of like locked on. So he got out. He made a call. He didn't really care. I backed out back to the creek bottom because, like he just said, he wanted me to be in a more comfortable position. There was a little bit of like a root coming off the tree where I could kind of rest the gun, have it steady, hold it with like a nice firm grip, and just, once I was ready, let it fly. So I ended up crawling back to the creek bottom. We made a call at him again, and he like kind of whipped his head right at it. Looked up, looked right at us. We're standing and we're looking at each other. Didn't even care, put his head right back down. So we're like, what is going on with this thing, right? Like we are trying to get him to stand up, and he doesn't even care about what's going on around him. Angelo's rustling leaves and trying to make it seem like, there's another buck in the area, or just to get him interested, and he did not care. He was
He didn't believe
enjoying
us. He
every
said,
bit
"We're in New York,
of the
baby.
sun.
There's no other buck."
Yeah, I'm the only one left.
What are you talking about? Who are you? Get
Yeah,
out
So-
of
yeah.
here.
What the buck are you talking
Yeah.
about?
Imposter.
So that was it. So after that, we kind of looked at each other. We kind of like just shook our head and was like, "We're in it for the long haul.
gonna
We're
be on his
we're waiting
terms."
until he gets up." So it was probably another maybe 15, 20 minutes. He finally got up, went right back to eating. So now we're settled in. I'm just looking through the scope, getting a good eye on it. So he walked probably 10 yards from where he was laying. He stopped. He was kind of just had his head down eating. I'm kind of like looking back at Angelo like, do I pull it yet? Do I not? He's waiting for me. In his head, he's like, why hasn't he shot yet? Like,
Yeah.
what's going on?
Well, we thought
like,
that
do
he
your
was just
thing,
gonna
though,
get up
bro.
and start walking to us. I mean,
thing
again,
was
we
is,
didn't know
like-
what to do. I was said, listen, if he gets
Yeah.
up, don't just rush the shot. If he's gonna get closer, let him get closer, right? There's no reason to
Yeah.
take an 85-yard shot when he might give you a 45-yard.
So, a bit of it too is, I know the placement that you want to aim at. I know the placement you want to shoot at, but like I said, I'm pretty much inexperienced. And, from hearing what you guys talk about and stuff, and I kind of had it confused after the fact me and Ange talked about it. Obviously with the bow, when you're drawn back and you pull it, you have, deer who could jump the string.
Yeah.
I was kind of looking at him for that reason because they say, when you're bow hunting, don't shoot at him with his head down because if he jumps, he's moving, you're not going to get the
Mhm.
shot you want. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like what I was looking at. He had his head down. I'm looking at him like, can I take this shot now or do I wait for him to pick his head up? So, all of this goes on. He, picks up his head. I'm right on him and I just send it. And he just folds like a book. And me and Ange looked at each other. We're grinning. We're just, going crazy. Obviously, it's a lot of emotions. Now I still can't even like really put it into words. It was just, it's done. Like we got it done.
And I'll tell
And
you what, with
To be
being
honest,
trapped
we
into
didn't. I mean, we shoot. Not a lot, but we shoot. I've been around guns and stuff like that.
You shoot often.
That
Yeah.
rifle was so loud.
I mean, we were trapped in
that
a
moment,
canyon, in a
like-
field, surrounded
like-
by mountains. We were in like a bowl. It was
Yeah,
crazy loud.
That shot in that moment, and especially
I
just
thought a
with
bomb
your
went off.
adrenaline going, like it sounded like a cannon. Like,
And you know what's
it-
crazy is you shot a 30-06, I
Yeah.
shot a 308. They shoot the same bullet. I believe the difference is the size of the cartridge behind it. I'm not an ammo expertise, so I might be messing that up a little bit. But when I shot my deer 2 days ago or 3 days ago, I didn't have any issue with the sound at all. So it's really interesting to hear that from you guys.
I think it was a matter
Yeah,
of the
I mean,
terrain. I don't know if
yeah,
it was
it's just-
necessarily the
there was a
caliber.
lot of stuff right up on. I mean, behind us we
Mhm.
had a incline like this to a creek bottom to a little field, and it was just when that went off, it was something else. But then just to be looking through the scope and see that the shot hit right where I wanted it. It was quartered. Gave us a perfect broadside. I hit him right behind the front shoulder, through the heart, and I think it actually got stuck in the other shoulder, which probably screwed up some of the meat. But he just, I don't even think he went a yard. He just fell right there, and it was just the story was over.
So, do you remember? Did you actually see the deer's reaction? Obviously, you said the deer dropped. Do you remember taking the shot and seeing him drop, or do you remember just taking the shot and then seeing him on the
I
floor?
watched the
He
entire
didn't
thing
kick.
through
He
my
didn't
scope.
do anything. I hit him, and he just folded.
Because now,
Like,
the reason I asked the question is because when I shot my deer, there were no nerves. It's not like there was like a target panic going on. It's not like I was like, oh my God, it was, I was on the deer. I slowly let's pause on that one. But anyway, when the deer, when I remember pulling the trigger. I remember where I was aiming and I remember pulling the trigger. But I have zero recollection of what the deer did, where the deer ran, because it turns out there were 5 deer there at once. I thought it was just 2. And I pulled the trigger and all of a sudden I just see poof, and deer just start running all over the place, So as you're pulling the trigger, you hear from you're with your brother. You got a little bit of someone kind of like the angel on your shoulder, kind of walking you through it, kind of calming you down a little bit. Do you remember saying anything to yourself as you were pulling the trigger? Because like when I shot the deer this weekend, I remember saying just don't jerk the trigger. There's no rush. Everything's okay. Just pull, 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 pull. Boom, gun goes off. So like, do you remember saying anything to yourself, or did it kind of just happen?
Well, you know, with the amount of time that we had to kind of prepare for the shot, we actually talked it over. Angelo was like, don't rush, pull through the trigger, don't squeeze it, don't jerk it, just take a nice relaxed shot, focus on the shot, and that was really it. So once I got set up, like I said, I mean, we had 2 hours, 2.5 hours to prepare for this shot. So a lot of those nerves were kind of gone. Obviously, once you get behind the gun and you're looking at it and it's time to actually take it, you do get a little excited again. But I mean, my heart was more so pumping after the fact because now I know that I dropped them rather than during the shot because I had time to prepare for it. So it was, I just found them in my scope, made sure I had a clear view of them, made sure I was lined up where I wanted to shoot, and just kind of exhaled. And as I exhaled, I just let it rip.
I mean, like
I
Christopher
love
said, though,
that.
you didn't see through the scope, right? Because of the recoil and everything else. Like maybe you took the shot and then you were able to see him drop maybe with your plain eye. I mean, he was like 75, 80 yards. I mean, with the naked eye, you could see him. I tried to get it on the
Yep.
GoPro. You couldn't really see anything at all. With some of the brush was in the way. It really didn't end up coming out that good. I'm annoyed that, with all the terrain walking that we did, I kind of left my regular camcorder at the cabin because it was just too much gear and we were doing a lot of walking. So in this instance, I wish I would have had it. We didn't, but I mean, I was scoped in on him, just like he was. I was saying if he misses, which I was praying that he didn't. I wanted it for him, maybe more than he did. I think when it came time to shoot, he had already been relaxed. I was trying to absorb all of that energy from him.
That's what I was saying.
My
If
heart
I
was
wasn't ready for
racing.
that shot,
He was.
he
Yeah,
was.
but I mean, I saw perfectly crisp as as anything. I saw the perfect placement, saw him drop. I was so excited, and to be honest with you, it was like when it did go off, the sigh of relief that I gave, I felt like I was more happy for him than if I would have been the one to shot it, or like when I shot any other deer. Like I just had, because I've done it so many times, you forget that joy that it happens. Sometimes it kind of becomes like something you kind of get used to. But knowing that it was his first deer ever and we shared the moment, I mean, I was like, we were already sweating from the sun, but I mean, I was so overjoyed. It was such a cool moment.
No, for sure, and your dad tells a story all the time about the first deer that I shot with him, and he carries that with him as he goes. And now this is something for you to carry with you as you help Daniel through it, and hopefully, Dan, you could pass that on to somebody else as we move forward, whether that's, Adriana or Peyton, or, your cousins or my daughter that's on the way. Spoiler alert! I actually haven't mentioned that to the listeners. I have a baby on the way, guys. You
Woo!
know, but woo!
There's no like
So
Yep.
effect
it's
here
like
that I could put on the screen, like balloons or nothing.
what now?
You said, is there
There's
any
no like
effects I can
effects
put
that I
on the
could do,
screen?
like on the screen,
I mean,
like
we could add them in we could add them
can I
in
put
post
like
editing.
balloons in the
Yeah.
Yeah.
chat and like iPhone and just balloons can fly up?
It's just no, man, it's just really cool, because I'm at the point in my life where I'm transitioning to the next phase of my life, and you're kind of there with me also, and Dan, you're kind of on the last phase a little bit, and it's just really cool to see us all in different stages trying to find a way to make it happen together. And I'll be honest, sometimes I lose sight of that. Sometimes it's a little tough. We get wrapped up in what we have going on or whatever. And it's really nice to just, even something like this, to sit down and have this conversation. Angela and I have talked about this a lot. I don't know if you've heard this uh, as in detail, but the whole reason we started this Wing and Tail Outdoors, Wing and Tail Boys, whatever, is because John lives in New Hampshire. Anthony lives in Jersey. You live in a different town in Jersey. Angelo lives an hour and 15 minutes north of where everybody lives. I now live 2 hours away in Pennsylvania. So it's like if we don't find a way to spend time together, we kind of lose sight of all of this. The whole family aspect. We started hunting as a family, and it's really cool to share those experiences as we go. Um, But with that being said, we've pretty much touched on just about everything. You talked about your emotions before and after. Angelo asked you how you're feeling now. That now that it's been a few days that have passed. Is there anything else about the process that you want to share with our listeners? Is there any advice that maybe you have to new hunters or something? Don't do this, or you should do this, or coming from a brand new hunter. Not that you're a brand new hunter, but a new deer hunter. What advice do you have for people just starting out?
I mean, to be honest, like if you're interested, just try it. The worst that could happen is you figure out, hey, listen, this isn't for me, but at least give it a try. And that's kind of where I'm at in my journey, you could say right now is I'm giving it a try. I may not be die hard, but I may enjoy it, and it's a good skill to have in the long run. God forbid, anything goes different
Zombie
in the
apocalypse?
world, or God forbid anything. I mean, for any reason, honestly, it's I know that I will have the skills to go out and you know do what I need to do to find game and harvest game, and whatever it is. It's more so of just kind of well rounding yourself in any aspect that you can. It's really just if you have an interest in it, do research, learn about it, and just go try it. That's really all that I
Yeah,
got.
just like and subscribe all of our
Just,
videos.
Yeah, we're the best out there.
just
Nobody out there does it better. No, I'm just fucking around. Guys, I mean, Angelo's been putting in a lot of effort here on our YouTube channel here. He's been posting up a lot of stuff. As you guys know, I've talked about it in the past. My computer kind of took a shit. It cannot handle the editing. So Angelo has been shouldering the brunt of the YouTube channel, and
Is
he's
that
been
why my
killing it.
body hurts?
Might be,
Or is it those
maybe,
mountains?
just your right
We'll
shoulder.
blame New York. We'll blame New York.
Yeah, fuck New York. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
The terrain killed me.
But no, seriously, yeah, guys, seriously, we're really trying to put some stuff out there. I think we've kind of been talking a little bit in the as of late. We want to do a lot more product reviews, things that we're using, review whether it's ammo, gun, bow, firearm, tree stand, boots, clothes, whatever the case may be. So if that's something you're interested in, head on over to that YouTube channel, like, subscribe, comment on the videos. We love to interact with our listeners. I don't know that there's a single comment that's ever been left on our videos that I haven't answered or one of us hasn't answered. So please, 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 if you have something to share, something to say, critique, anything, share it with us. We would love, love, love to talk to you. Before we wrap this up, I just want to thank our partners and our sponsors here. And you want to talk a little bit about Andover Hunt and Fish real quick?
Yeah, I mean, Andover Hunt and Fish was really great help. I just recently purchased a firearm online that I took to the New York rifle opener. I did not get a chance to use it, but it doesn't mean that Andover Hunt and Fish wasn't a big part of getting me the transfer documents all taken care of. We were able to inspect the firearm, make sure it was something that was worth purchasing. Not only do they allow transferring, but they have used and new guns for sale at their location, as well as bow and a bow tuning station with a large fishing department as well, with all types of fishing tackle and live bait. They're very popular in this area for their live bait. So yeah, give them a check out. They've got a website as well. I know that they're improving that website every day. They're looking to get some of that stuff for sale online. So if you're not in our area, just keep an eye on them, and then they're going to be able to provide stuff for you in the future.
Cool. In addition to that, we have Big D Custom Shops over there in Jefferson, New Jersey, I believe.
I think it's like
I think
it's
that
either way, same thing.
yeah, Pac-On. I think if you look up the address, it comes up as a Pac-On, so you might be right. Either way, they're over there on Route 15, Big D Custom Shops. They specialize in bow and arrow customization, bowling ball customization, and they can really help you. And embroidery. They embroider as well. If you're looking for a new bow, they're licensed dealers for Darton and Expedition. Chris over there is fantastic, and Anthony also works over there as the bow tech. He is the one who has set me up with everything on this new Darton that I have. I absolutely love it. They're great. Great time. You go in that shop, you're going to be laughing from the moment you enter to the moment you leave. And if nothing else, it's a great atmosphere, a great time, great way to spend your time. So if you're in that area, northern New Jersey, you're looking for bow specific stuff, give my boy Chris a call. Go see Anthony. They're going to take care of you. On top of that, we have Fire Knock. Dorge over there at Fire Knock has been very good to us as of late. We are planning on doing a 10 to 15 episode series on arrow flight, arrow mechanics, bow mechanics, the science behind bows and arrows. So if you guys are interested in getting the most efficiency out of your equipment, you don't want to miss that. If you're looking for arrow components, something new, something exciting, head on over to fireknock.com. He's got everything you could possibly need to make sure you're getting the most out of your gear. And on top of that, we also have Antler Grow products. They go down on your food plots, and you don't even need a food plot to do it. You could take this stuff and spray it on your oak trees or your sprouts that are just coming out. Absolutely fantastic. Once I used this product this year, that is when posts, our target buck, started coming into our food plots literally every single day. And I truly believe that Antler Grow is what helped us pattern that deer and get a shot on him early season there. We also shoot our Darton bows. I shoot a Darton bow right now. Darton is one of our sponsors as well. They have been great to us. Love their products. They have the new Darton ST2s out. I have the older last year's model sequel. I absolutely love it. This new sequel ST2 is exactly the same, except you have way more tunability options. So if you're looking for a new bow, if you're looking for something with all the tech and a smaller price point, not going to break the bank, again, give my boy Big D Customs a call over there in Jefferson, and they will take care of you. And do you have anything else? Anyone I'm missing, forgetting
No,
about?
I think that's it.
All right, guys. Hey, Dan, you have anything to add?
Is my mount done yet?
Yeah, is my mount done yet? Man, can't wait. He's fucking hooked, bro. I don't care what he's hooked.
Is
Hook-
my mount done
hook-
yet?
hook-
I'm very impatient.
Hook, line, sinker, done. He's on to deer number 2. Guys, with that being said, we want to thank you so much for joining us for another episode here of the Wing and Tail Boys. If you like what you heard, scroll on down to the bottom. Give us a beautiful 5-star review. If you're on Apple Podcasts, leave us a written review. It goes a really, really, really long way. The more reviews we have, the higher our name shows up on the search list, and the more people get to listen to our stuff. If you're on Spotify, just a good old-fashioned 5-star, clicky, put the 5-star there. That's all we need, because they don't give you an opportunity to leave a written review. With that said, again, we want to thank you so much. Remember, success is just a commitment away, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.
See you guys.
See you.